Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who this year is locking up that he will win the Pick'em Show of the year. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I do think I'm going to win this year. I'm feeling pretty confident. And overall, just really good. Watched football all night Thursday night. Went to football games Friday night. Watched more football Saturday night. So watching some football before this show Sunday. All feels good in the world. We're back.
Yeah, it's great. And real football starts soon as well.
Yeah, we got real football, but the NFL is great too. I love the NFL. Ready to get back to it, of course.
I can't help myself, Kyle. I just can't.
You're missing out. I'm going to sway you one of these days. You're going to become a college football junkie.
I get into college football, I feel like, every year for like 3 specific Saturdays. And then I'm like, okay, why am I doing this?
Because it's entertaining.
Sure, I get it. I just don't have only so many hours in a day, Kyle.
There was a 63-61 football game yesterday.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's telling me the way that I feel it would sell other people.
Yeah, and there was a onside kick return for a touchdown that changed the whole game.
Ooh, those are always fun. Also I got an interesting lighting setup. I think I screwed up the lighting. So I'm very blue today as well. But you know what? We're just going with it.
Are you doing okay?
No, I'm doing fine. Yes, it's just the lighting thing. I think I closed the door. I typically don't close, which is causing more blue to reflect onto me than typically I like to. But you know what? We're all right. Kyle, every year starts 0-0. You are coming off of back-to-back losses. What is your strategy this year to right the ship?
My strategy is to go 18-0 on locks. So that's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
That's my game plan. I'm going to go unbeaten on the locks, and then we're going to be good there. So that's my plan. It's easy enough.
All right. Do you guarantee?
Whoever said gambling was hard. I went 5-2 yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sure that gambling's easy. Everyone makes money, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly a license to just print more money in your pocket.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Let's just jump into the show. Everyone's tired of hearing us talk about our lives. Let's get into the actual thing that we're here to talk about. Kyle, since you lost again, I'm going to keep bringing that up. This means that you give a game for me to pick. Where are you going starting off the show?
Yeah, should we get into the point system and how this works real quick for any new viewers, I guess?
I guess so. I kind of think, should we do that or should we just jump into it and people could pick it up? But sure. Why don't you set up the point system real quick?
Yeah, so basically, I'll just go through it real fast. So we each take turn giving each other a game for the game that we think is going to be the most close game to the game that we think is the least competitive at the bottom. That's the last pick. So ideally with the most competitive game, I think this is the toughest game to pick of the week. If Jackson picks the wrong team, he gets 1 point. And if he gets it right, nothing happens. It's 0 points. So the goal at the end of the season is to have the least amount of points. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it. And then we got a lock part where you have to guess against the spread. If you guess it right against the spread, then you get a point taken off your total, or you get 2 points if you get it wrong if you don't guess the spread correctly. So that's basically all there is to it.
Yeah, people in the chat saying Kyle winning this year, it's went to Jackson's head. A lot of people are pro Kyle here. Want to see you get the monkey off of your back. Yeah, I think you pretty much covered it. And again, it's simple to pick up if you don't understand. You'll get it as we go. Or maybe you won't, and then you'll feel bad about yourself because I said it was simple to pick up. But anyways, Kyle, give me a game to pick.
All right, I had 2 games basically at the top that I thought were the 2 toughest games of the week. I went back and forth on which one I wanted to give you first. And I'm giving you this one because I really don't want to pick it. And we could talk about it. Let's go Patriots at Dolphins, week 1. Patriots have had some ghosts down in Miami. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, not a bad pick at all. I had it second on my list as well. I agree with you. I don't want to pick this game. It feels like it's a tough one. Miami is favored. I think I'm going to underdog here. I am going to pick the New England Patriots to win. I picked the Patriots to win the division, although I had it within a tenth of a game. This could go either way. I think I like the Patriots with points. You give them 3 points. I think I like that bet. I'm surprised it was 3 points, but I guess it's just because it's in Miami. But this is a game that could go either way. I think right off the bat, the fascinating thing for me in this game is how will New England cover the speed that Miami has on the outside?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question. So New England's defense, I feel like could actually handle this game pretty well. It's going to depend on how it plays out. But obviously, I think they could defend it pretty well. They got some fast linebackers there now. They're faster at linebacker with Mac Wilson and Josh Uche in there. I think that's really going to help. Jonathan Jones has always been their speed corner. He's someone they line up a lot on Tyreek Hill in the past when they've played the Chiefs. I think he's seemingly stepping into the number one guy. I think Jalen Mills is all right. I think Shaun Wade and plus those safeties, they're going to put a lot of defensive backs on the field in this game and basically dare Miami to go at them that way. I think that this is I do think this is a toss-up. I was leaning Miami just because I was worried about a little bit of the Patriots' offseason offensive issues. But you could also talk me into the other way because there's a lot of new faces on Miami. It might take a few weeks for this to kind of all gel together. But I think it's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm fascinated in seeing one thing that's worth mentioning with the Patriots is they are kind of a team that's notorious for maybe starting a little bit slow, right? They have so many new pieces every year. They're got to figure out what's the best way to use all of these new tools. That again, they build a team different than every other team. They're focused on getting 50 plus guys that are very good on the roster. Sometimes even guys in a practice squad that can do certain things. Whereas most teams are focused on the top best 22 guys. And sometimes it just takes time to figure out who is the best in each spot. You thought this guy would be the best, but then it doesn't work out. So that's what I'm, I think, most interested in. With I guess really the Patriots is just what are we going to see out of them? What kind of wide receiving core are we going to see out of them? Is Devontae Parker going to get a big catch down the field, or is he not? Like that's the questions to me.
Yeah, so there's a couple new faces on the offense. The first one is obviously, highlighted at the draft. It's going to be Cole Strange at left guard. He's facing a tough defensive line, I think, in week 1, too. So this should be interesting. And once again, it's without offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia. It's without offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, which were two huge pieces of this Patriots coaching staff, this core that's been good for so long. So I think that's going to be really tough. And going against guys like Christian Wilkins, Emmanuel Ogbah, Jalen Phillips, Trey Flowers. I think Miami has some guys they can rotate at this offensive line and test it early in the season. And then Devontae Parker, he's not a big separation guy. He's a 50-50 ball guy. He's got to find a way to get some separation against these corners. They're way too good to test with the ball in the air. They both have fantastic ball playing ability, and I don't really want to test that at all. We'll see how Parker's able to handle that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's not a whole lot of new faces on the defense. Mac Wilson's really the only big new face. But the interesting thing, the guy I'm watching for this one's Christian Barmore. I think Christian Barmore, everything I've heard in training camp, everything I've heard in the preseason, I think he can come out and dominate this season. I think he's poised for a big year. I think Miami's offensive line's a little better, and they're also kind of built in the way where they're not keeping the ball in their quarterback's hands very long. But Barmore is someone who I think can kind of tear up things and, wreak havoc on this team in week 1.
Yeah, especially interesting with the new, the running scheme of the sort of the Shanahan style with Mike McDaniel bringing in there. The final thing we have to talk about before we move on, what Tua are we going to see? It's year 3 of Tua. There's no, you don't get he's a young player now. Year 3, you have to be playing well. Doesn't mean he has to play well right away in week 1, but you want to see some improvements from Tua. He was fine last year, but you want to see him take that next step this year.
Well, that's the big thing. So if he struggles again to start the season, although he plays the Patriots pretty well, if he struggles again, then you're asking a lot of questions already out of the gate in week 1 of what the future of him is, what the future is of him at quarterback for the Dolphins is. Remains to be seen. But once again, I even said it was last week we did our AFC East preview last Wednesday. I said I think the Dolphins have a team that's built to win. Even though I'm not the biggest Tua fan right now, I'm not a huge believer in Tua. I still think they have a team that's built to win. So I think it's going to be close, and I think he just has to manage this game. That's really all he has to do.
Yeah, will be fascinating. Let's move on. So now it's my turn to give you a game. I'm going to give you the one that's the thumbnail, the kickoff game, Bills at Rams. The Bills are 2-point favorites over the reigning defending Super Bowl champions. Who are you going with?
I'm actually going with the Rams this game. I had the Bills actually going 14-3 this season, and I'm starting them off with a loss in week 1. I don't love the absence of Trey White in this game. Trey White, I think, is a big piece of this defense, especially against a team with as many pass catching options as Los Angeles. I think that's going to be a problem. I think that they, I just like the Rams. I think teams typically succeed in these Super Bowl openers, Super Bowl winning openers. I like them at home. I like the pieces they still have on this offensive side of the ball. I think that they can bounce back. I think Cam Akers can bounce back and have a big year. And I think this Rams offense is going to be able to move the ball on the Bills defense and win this one.
Yeah, what's really fascinating about this game for me is, my biggest question mark with the Bills heading into this season is sort of their secondary receiver talent. And I think that, they're asking a lot of Gabriel Davis to be successful. How well will he be able to be? Because he did look good last year, but, will we be able to do it in a full season sample size now is the question. And I think we're going to find that out kind of right away, playing a team that's sort of known for taking away your best option or sometimes your best two options with not just having Jalen Ramsey, but also not being afraid to put safety help over great receivers on top of that. Those secondary receivers for Buffalo are going to right away have to be successful.
Yeah, and especially with it's going to be tested early on because we know Darius Williams is gone from Los Angeles too. They have Jalen Ramsey, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He does get burned sometimes. People like to laugh at him when he gets burned because he talks a lot, but he backs it up more times than not with really good play. Jalen Ramsey is one of the best in the league. Troy Hill, I think, is one of the best slot corners in the league. So it's going to come down to these guys like Robert Rochelle, David Long, who's going to be able to step up into that number 2 corner spot and be able to win on defense for the Rams.
Yeah, someone could say the same for the Bills. Rams only have one Jalen Ramsey, and there's too many mismatches and options on offense for the Rams to be able to handle. I don't know exactly if there's too many, but it is kind of an interesting point as well of the Rams, one of the issues I had about them was the loss of Darius Williams. What do they have at, cornerback number 2? So I guess it's kind of like, one of those question marks is going to really have to come through to win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the premise of it. Like Ramsey can only guard one guy theoretically per play. The problem is that I'm still not entirely sold on Teron Johnson or Dane Jackson guarding either guy, guarding Allen Robinson or Cooper Kupp. And they're going to move Kupp around the field. And then you're asking Kyer Elam too, as a rookie, his first game in the NFL to guard maybe one of the best receiving corps in the NFL. That's a tough ask, I think, in week 1. So I think this Bills secondary, I think, is going to be tested in week 1, and I'm not sure the results are going to be so good. I think it could be better by the end of the season, obviously, once they get their star corner back. But I think right now this is just a tough ask overall.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I also predicted the Rams to win, but should be. I think it should be an awesome week 1 kickoff game. I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think these offenses can roll. And then, I mean, the big factor to this is, the best version of Josh Allen. Like, I think if you were to construct a defensive line that might be able to slow down Josh Allen, it might be the Rams defensive line just because of, Aaron Donald's a stud. You got all those guys on the defensive line. I'm excited to see Bobby Wagner in this defense too, which I think is a really underrated acquisition this offseason. But there are only so many people I'm betting against to be like stop Josh Allen consistently. I still think he can. I still think he's able to go off in this game.
Yeah, should be fun to watch. All right, give me a game.
All right, feeling really good about this because that was my number 3 game. So that means I'm giving you my top 2 games. This was maybe the best game of the season last season in the regular season, not the playoffs, the regular season. Let's go Raiders at Chargers.
Oh, Raiders at Chargers. Yes. Here, did I put that down on my? I think I'm not sure if I made a banner for that. Here's okay. Rookie mistake right away. Did not put that on the board, so maybe I would have picked that one earlier. For the Raiders at the Chargers. So I guess right off the bat, I think my first reaction is going to be, I'll go with the Raiders. Why not? We'll go with Raiders Nation. I'm gonna pick the Raiders to win. Why don't you talk about it while I put the banner up?
Yeah, this could be a really interesting matchup. I don't love the Trayvon Mullen trade right before this. I mean, obviously I think that they have a little bit of a plan. I was actually leaning Chargers on this because once again, it's kind of a theme with a few of these picks for me. I just think there's a lot of new faces in this Raiders camp as far as new coach. Devontae Adams is the new face. There's new faces on this defense. I think it could take a couple weeks for this team to adjust. And I think Chargers at home can get them pretty early. And I think Justin Herbert can have a special game. But with all those new faces, I think that there's a lot of talent too. So I could see Devontae Adams having a huge day, even against this Chargers secondary. He could be going a lot against J.C. Jackson. It'll be interesting to see. But I think this is a fascinating matchup. I'm just leaning Chargers in week 1, even though I find these teams pretty close, pretty even, I think, overall.
Yeah. Here's my thought is, again, what are the issues? We don't know what's going to happen, right? Week 1 is always such a crapshoot. You do have to kind of take a guess here. But my main logic, I think, behind why I'm picking the Raiders is I just have some concerns about the Chargers defense, and they're definitely a bit star dependent on this defense, which, listen, for the Rams, it worked when they had Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. But the issue is they still did have the depth behind it, which I just don't know if this Chargers team does. And they also don't have an Aaron Donald, although J.C. Jackson is very good at the corner position. It's like, okay, who's covering Hunter Renfrow and who's covering Darren Waller here? Those are my concerns. The Chargers gave up way too many yards over the middle last year. That's where they lost games. That's where they lost against the Raiders not the playoffs, but in the last game of the season. Was a big chunk of it was stuff like that. And I just think that, J.C. Jackson can potentially take away Devontae Adams, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of other good stuff there. So I think the Raiders will be able to move the ball effectively against the Chargers. I think the Chargers will be able to do an effective job moving the ball against the Raiders as well. I mean, Justin Herbert, he knows what he's doing. He can figure this stuff out. And you're exactly right. Don't understand that Trayvon Mullen trade at all, but I still do think I'm going to give the edge to Raiders Nation.
Yeah, so couple faces on this Chargers defense I think are going to be interesting. You mentioned, is Darren Waller playing? Like, is he healthy? Like, this has been like a weird thing this whole offseason, hasn't it?
Potentially. I haven't been, I'm always tough at picking, staying up to date with all these, small injuries.
Yeah, so we'll see. It sounds like he's going to play, but I'm not entirely sure. We'll see. I mean, it's been weird, but a couple faces on the Chargers.
12 hours ago, he's returned to practice, so
okay,
I think it seems likely that he would play.
Yeah, so a couple faces on this Chargers defense, though. I guess Kyle Van Noy was PFF's number 1 graded coverage linebacker, which kind of blew my mind. I didn't think he was that good last season, but maybe he chips in, is able to help out in that department. You got guys like Kenneth Murray, I think, who could be even better this season. And then, I mean, Asante Samuel, I think he's going to be tasked with a lot of slot duty, I think, in year 1. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes up and handles that responsibility. I think that there's some interesting pieces on this defense, but I also listen, we can get into it all we want. Chargers fans weren't really happy when I said it. I didn't really think Austin Johnson and Sebastian Joseph Day were those amazing of signings that people think they are that's going to change this run defense. I could see Josh Jacobs having like 150 yards in this game. I could see him completely dominating this game. But on the other side, I also think that there's some issues with who's covering, who's going to be able to cover in this secondary for the Raiders. I'm not a huge fan of Jonathan Abram. That's pretty well established, I think, at this point.
How dare you?
He's going to be a deep safety in this defensive scheme, I think, and I don't know how it's going to work. I'm interested to see how they go up against this, this Chargers passing attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for anybody, right? I'm interested in seeing the Rocky Sin addition. How will that come in? He will be tested early right away. I do think, though, the move probably is, right? I think with this Chargers team, it's double Keenan Allen and I almost feel like it's one of those like double Keenan Allen, put your best corner on Mike Williams, and then just hope, which is the classic, Patriots move, which you now have Josh McDaniels there, and then make Gerald Everett be the guy who beats you.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, but then you still have to win those battles. You're looking at it like, okay, it sounds good in a vacuum, but then you also have to go out and stop Keenan Allen pretty consistently.
Sure.
And I'm not entirely convinced that's going to work. And then I look at these other guys, I think Austin Eckler is a weapon out of the backfield that's going to be able to do a lot of different things. I like the guys they can rotate at running back. So I think that there's a lot of options here. The Chargers can go at this defense in week 1. I think the Raiders can definitely take this game on the road. I mean, it's basically going to be the home game for them, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch the chess match in week 1 between these two.
Yeah, should be a fascinating game. It feels like a coin flip game. I'm going to give you one here. I'm going to give you the Browns at the Panthers. Baker Mayfield playing his former team. Who you got?
Yeah, I had this 4th on my list, so this is a good pick for you. I like the I'm going to go with Carolina. Carolina at home. We got a healthy Christian McCaffrey, which I think is a big thing. I think Christian McCaffrey I mean, it's a completely different offense when Christian McCaffrey's on the field. Just everything he's able to do. He's so difficult to account for because of the way he can run, the way he can catch the ball at the backfield. They could put him in the slot and he's successful, basically. I mean, he's really is this, it's really hard to quantify just how good he is when he's on the field and the amount of production he can account for in this offense. I like him to be able to move the ball just enough. And I mean, I was very much, I was a lot harsher on it than I think you were. I'm not a huge fan of Jacoby Brissett. I'm not convinced it's going to work. I think that the Browns are going to struggle on offense, even if they're able to move the ball on the ground. I got the Panthers winning this one.
Interesting. I have the Browns winning this. I think that I was surprised the Browns were underdogs in this game. I get what you're saying about Christian McCaffrey, and that's a good point. Bet on the Panthers early, and then because when he's healthy, that helps a lot. But I just feel like I don't know if I can see the Panthers really moving the ball that well against Cleveland. I just don't. Christian McCaffrey's going to have to win this game for them, which he's great. Christian McCaffrey can win games for you, but it's a lot harder for a running back to do that in the NFL than it is in college. And I do feel like I just don't know how much I trust this receiving group to consistently get open against this Cleveland secondary. And I think that, games are won on the outside. I think that the Browns have a much easier time getting guys open down the field than Carolina will. And I don't think there's a massive drop off between Brissett and Mayfield. I think there is a drop off, but I don't think it's massive.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I didn't think Brissett was very good last year. It's going to be interesting to see I actually think this Panthers secondary is pretty good. I like their safeties. I think J.C. Horn's going to be poised for a big year in year 2. I thought he was good until he got hurt, obviously. I think, I like Dante Jackson. I'm still holding out hope for C.J. Henderson. There's a lot of guys I like in this secondary. I like the
Are we really still holding on to hope for C.J. Henderson?
A little bit. Just a little
bit. Okay. Yeah. 105th rated corner last year, according to PFF.
It's going to take a little bit of time. That's
okay. Okay.
I mean, the big thing, I don't think either of these teams are going to approach this game that way, though. I think both of these teams are looking at this, especially Cleveland, I think Cleveland's looking at this like we're going to ground and pound for the first 11 weeks of the season. We're going to use these 3 running backs that are very good running backs behind a very good offensive line, and that's how we're going to win football games. I don't see them having Brissett drop back 25 times. And, I mean, it might work, but at the same time, eventually, I think in the NFL, you have to trust your quarterback, and I don't believe they're going to trust their quarterback. I don't trust their quarterback.
Interesting. So you think it might just be you might just trust that's I can see that. I can see Matt Rule kind of just saying, let's just but the Panthers aren't going to trust their quarterback either. They're going to trust Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, but I mean that's another team too where I like DJ Moore to be able to make some plays, Robbie Anderson to be able to make some plays, and then it's McCaffrey, it's Chuba Hubbard, it's Dante Foreman. I think this is a team with running back depth too. I think that they're going to be able to find ways to move the ball, and I just think McCaffrey is the X factor here.
I mean, again, when we're bringing up Donta Foreman and C.J. Henderson and our arguments of why the Panthers are winning, I feel pretty good about my pick of the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be I think it's a bit of a toss-up.
Okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, I picked this because I was hoping that you would pick Carolina. That's why I picked them early, because I feel pretty confident the Browns will win, actually. But we'll see. Listen, it's week 1. Who knows of this stuff? Yeah. Okay, so now time for you to give me a game.
All right. It does feel like there's a pretty clear favorite here, but rivalry game, division game, crazier things happen. This team's kind of been a thorn in the side of the Packers for a few years now. Let's go Packers at Minnesota to open the season with the Vikings.
Yeah, not a bad pick. I have one game ahead of this one, but I don't hate this at all. I do have the Packers winning it, but the one thing that keeps going in my head is how poorly the Packers played last year. Now, I think that there was a bit more going on during the training camp and stuff last year than there was this year. I think that they're probably just I hope they've learned their lesson from that and aren't going to let the same thing happen again. So you are right that I think that, this is kind of the Vikings have done a good job against the Packers. They've been able to, play them tough, certainly. I just think the Packers are a better team. I think the Packers have more talent I think their defense is significantly better than the Vikings defense. And while the Vikings have, a better receiving core than the Packers, most teams do, I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to figure it out. I think LaFleur will be able to figure it out. I think the running game will be able to figure it out. So while it's not a bad pick, I do think the Vikings can find a way to upset it. I think that the Packers just have more talent. I'm going to trust the more talented team.
I think you have to pick the Packers here. I think if you're picking the Vikings, you're a chaos magnet a little bit, and I'm much higher on the Vikings than you are. I view the Vikings as a potential playoff team. I like what they've done with this team. I like there's just a lot of guys on this defense I feel like that they can throw at teams, and I think that it's going to be a pretty good defense. Not to mention you're looking at Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook. There is just so many pieces I think on this offense with a real offensive coach. I think that they're going to be able to be pretty dynamic in this game. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers. I think there's going to be a different looking Packers team. I think they're going to rely a lot more on Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. I think that they're going to pick their spots for Rodgers to dominate, which I think is okay. I'm really excited to see Christian Watson in his debut. I know people are talking about Romeo Doubs and helping him up. So I think this is going to be a really interesting test for their offense in week one.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to defend the Packers receiving core. That's an issue. I just think that as good as Justin Jefferson is, he's going to be playing against Jair Alexander. That's not going to be easy. As good as Adam Thielen is, he's going to potentially be getting double teams. You have Eric Stokes there, or even Rasul Douglas, depending on who they put on him. So I just think the Packers defense can get it done. But it'll be, again, an interesting kind of test as to what is this Packers team going to look like in a post Devontae Adams world.
Yeah, I mean, not only a big test with Jair Alexander, this is what I had ranked as the number one secondary in football. So I think it's a really tough test. It will be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, would you be shocked? Would you be shocked if the Packers offense struggled? Like if they lost this game or if they won it like 17-14?
Yeah, I could absolutely see that.
Yeah. I definitely could see it too. I wouldn't be surprised if they have trouble moving the ball in week one and they start to figure things out as the season goes along, as Christian Watson continues to develop. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're a little lackluster in week one. I mean, they were last year. They lost like 38-0.
38-3. No, I just remember. Plus, they didn't play in the preseason. Might be rusty. Will be fascinating to see. Or will Kellen Mond curse, though? No Kellen Mond there for the Vikings. Will not curse over this team. It's also retroactively cursed them for the past 60 years or so. Let's move on. I'm giving you Eagles at Lions. Two teams that I think there's a lot higher expectations for them than there were last year. Where are you going here?
Wow. All right. I have this a little lower on my list. I'll take the Eagles. Do I want to lock it up this early in the game? I'm not going to lock it up. I feel pretty good that they're going to win this game, though. I like that they got CJ Gardner-Johnson. That should help this secondary. I just think the Lions are going to have a tough time moving the ball on this team. And I'm not convinced. Like, I think that there are going to be some teams that can give Jalen Hurts some trouble. I don't think this Lions secondary is going to be the team that gives Jalen Hurts trouble. I got the Eagles winning this one pretty handily.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are the correct pick. I also have the Eagles winning. I actually think from this point on, I have a pretty clear. I feel good about every pick from here on out, which is why I have them right here. Also, this is unrelated, but it's kind of a funny note. I first saw this comment saying we don't even need Jackson, and I was like, oh, someone wants a Kyle Solo podcast. I believe it's a Chargers fan talking about J.C. Jackson. So not someone who just hates me, which is nice to hear. But yeah, the reason why I gave you the Eagles Lions is I just feel like these are two teams that we don't really know what to make of them. They're two big wild cards heading into this year. Is it that crazy to think that Darius Slay and James Bradbury could show their age this year? No, it's not. I'm not betting on it, but I could see it. So two teams that have a lot of new talent that we'll have to see how, who gets the most out of that talent early on. So week one, I just like a team I don't want to have to pick a game like this where they feel like two very weird teams.
I don't know. People are saying that the Eagles are going to win 14 games and, roll to the Super Bowl, basically.
Who's saying that?
I've heard
who outside of the Philadelphia area is saying that?
No, I'm hearing people trendy on the Eagles to the Super Bowl pick. This is a real movement that's happened in the last week or so.
Interesting. I mean, listen, they had a similar when they won the Super Bowl. It was kind of a similar thing. They kind of just went from decent to great. I'm not going to say it's going to happen again, but okay.
I mean, there's things to like about this Eagles team.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, no, I'm
going to
stay disciplined. I'm going to stay disciplined. But you look at this team, though, and it's just like, okay, I think Nakobe Dean could be an instant impact rookie. I think you look at guys like Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox. They're going to be able to have a pass rush. Brandon Graham too. You look at the guys in the secondary, like, yes, Darius Slay could get old, but he's got more help than he's ever had, I think, in his time with Philadelphia, when he's got guys like James Bradbury, when he's got like guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson. This is more help than he's ever had, I think, as far as the Eagles cornerback. You look at this offense, and I don't know, AJ Brown should still be pretty awesome. I'm still convinced that that's going to work out for them. I mean, I just look at how are the Lions going to guard this team? How are the Lions going to guard this team?
Oh yeah, they're going to have a hard time. They're going to. I mean, that's just what they're going to have to hope that Hurts and AJ Brown aren't on the same page. You're absolutely right. Yeah. One other last point I have is one of the best. If you're an offensive and defensive line guy, Lions O line versus the Eagles D line is going to be quite the treat.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be very good. I like this Lions offensive line. It's probably the best part of the team, which isn't a bad thing, but you do need some skill position players eventually. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so I got this as Eagles. I feel pretty good about it. I'm just not going to lock it up. I'm close to it though.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are clearly the correct pick. I just think the Lions could find a way to pull an upset if things break a certain way. Let's move on. Why don't you give me a game?
All right. I'll give you this one because I think this team's a little overrated. Maybe they're not being rated by too many people. Let's go Jaguars at the Washington Commanders.
Yes. Let's talk some balls here with Washington. Well, I considered locking this up, actually. I have Washington winning. So is Washington the overrated team?
Yeah.
Okay, well, because I had them as making the playoffs. I kind of like this team. I don't think that there's a super high ceiling here, but I feel like they have a lot of stuff to like. There's not a ton of weaknesses with this team, and I think Carson Wentz is fine. Carson Wentz isn't worth his contract, but he's all right. They have receivers, which for the first time since Carson Wentz won a Super Bowl. So I think that there's stuff to like about this team, and I just think the Jaguars are just too young. They're going to need to take more time.
Yeah, I think it's the right pick, but I do think, it's another one of those where, like, Trevor Lawrence, from what I don't watch preseason, but I read preseason. Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good. And so, like, if we have a year 2 leap, like, does that change our trajectory? Like, I don't think the Jaguars would then all of a sudden go out and win like 9 games. But does that change our trajectory for the Jaguars for this season, at least, to where they're probably going to upset more, I would say, probably average teams than we think.
Yeah, I could certainly see it. And you added, the $18 million man, Christian Kirk. We can see how he can help out. They should be better than they were last year. And one of the things I'm very fascinated in is just this, Doug Peterson with Jacksonville. I think it'll be a good fit. Again, how long will it take for it to really work out? That remains to be seen. But I think that's a good, it'll be a good test for them, playing a decent team right away, kind of seeing what they can do.
Yeah. And then a couple more things on Jacksonville. I'm really excited for the debut of ETN too. I think he's really going to help this offense, even if James Robinson's not a help 100%. I think he's going to have, I think a really good coach is going to be able to be really creative with him. And I'm just going to be curious to see if the Jaguars have the staff that's willing to do that. And then, like you said, I do think that this Washington team has guys at skill position, especially wide receiver. You mentioned I was a big fan of Jahan Dotson in the draft. You liked De'Ami Brown last year. I still think he can be a pretty good player. Curtis Samuel is another guy who's solid. But I also like this Jaguars secondary. I look through this list and it's like, okay, I like Shaquille Griffin. I like Darius Williams. Tyson Campbell, I think, was a guy you were pretty high on in the draft. Andre Sisco's a guy I really like at safety too. Rashawn Jenkins, I think, is fine too. There's guys I think who can cover in this secondary. It might be the best part of this defense, I think, going forward.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that the Jaguars, again, there's stuff to like here. I don't think that there's a 0% chance the Jaguars win this game.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting toss-up, but I think who wins that battle wins this game, because I do think that this Washington defensive line should be able to get after Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. I do think that this Josh Allen is going to be able to cause some havoc. It's just if they're able to stop this Washington receivers, I think they could definitely steal this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time. I don't think it comes down to that. I just think that I don't know if I trust the Jaguars offense to really move the ball too well on this Balls defense. I think that's going to be the concern.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. If Washington loses, just blow it up right away, right? The big one, we got to trade everyone, plan for next year.
You might start to think about it that way. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, maybe you don't get it unless they get unlucky or something. Let's move on. I'm giving you Chiefs at Cardinals. Where are you going here?
All right, Chiefs at Cardinals. I had this as a potential lock candidate, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to take
Oh,
the Kansas City Chiefs here. I'm not worried about any offensive slowdowns. Um, I think that they're going to come out. Listen, the book on the Cardinals is that they struggle without DeAndre Hopkins. Now they are good in the first half of the season typically, so that is a concern. But I think that the Chiefs have a lot more firepower. I think that they have a lot more talent, and I think Patrick Mahomes can be able to get it done. I don't really see a path for the Cardinals beating this team.
this is a good lock. I believe I wrote down lock of the week. Right, I write LOW on my notes right next to this one that I was going to pick it and then went off it eventually because I agree. This is a game that Kansas City should feel pretty good about winning. They're a team. I just think what it comes down to for me is okay. Great, you got Trayvon Mullen for nothing. That was nice. I still don't like this Cardinals secondary at all. And when you got Patrick Mahomes coming to town, I know that the Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. They still have guys who can do things. I think that you need at least a semblance of a secondary, and that's my real concern. And I feel like the Chiefs are going to put up a lot of points. I think the Cardinals could put up points as well, but I just think that I trust. If it's a shootout, I'm trusting Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm definitely trusting Patrick Mahomes. So here's my thing too. So I was looking at this Cardinals team, and it's like, okay, I think JJ Watt's still really good when he plays, but I think there was some reasoning to letting Chandler Jones walk because I think he was,
Mm-hmm.
I still think he's a good pass rusher, but he's not a 3-down defensive lineman, and he's getting paid like a 3-down defensive lineman. I think at this point, so I
His
think
name's
there's
worth more than his play at this point.
yeah, so I think there was reasons to let him walk, but who's creating pressure in this Cardinals defensive line? I think JJ Watt's still good. I think he's actually a really good run stopper, more so than pass guy. I think at this point in his career, he's still pretty good against the pass, but I don't think he's quite the same guy he was. And I think one of the things when I look at this, I think one of the things with this Chiefs team is that they let Tyreek Hill walk. They let Tyrann Mathieu walk specifically so they can revamp this offensive line and make it one of the best in football. I think they have the best offensive line in football. I think it's going to be okay overall. And I think that they're just going to be able to cover and hold off on defense. And I think that they're going to be able to score a lot of points.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs have a couple areas that people have played a lot too, and I think are actually underrated. I think that their secondary, again, it's not elite, but I think it's better than people realize. I think same thing with their receiving core. And again, it's just like, I guess the one thing I'll say about the Cardinals is last year we said, this secondary looks horrible. They're going to be the worst secondary in football. And then they were great for like 8 weeks and then fell off. So maybe they'll find a way to, sort of recapture that magic. If they can, then, it could be a much more interesting game.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm still not convinced on these corners, even with adding Trayvon Mullen. I think that, I don't think it's a very strong corner group. I do like their safeties, but there's going to be a team, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be wired the same way they were last year, looking downfield all the time.
Yeah. But also, is it that crazy? I mean, look at what Kyler Murray did week 1 last year. Like, it's not that crazy to think that, like, he could just go off and he could beat Mahomes. Like, I don't think it's impossible for Murray to beat Mahomes in a shootout. I'm just not betting on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I agree with that. I think, Murray has big playability, and he
Mm-hmm.
might have the best highlight package of any player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think he's prone to going off in a lot of different situations. I just think the guy on the other sideline is just as prone to going off a lot more consistently.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. So, time for you to give me a game.
All right. All right. So I think I agree with you that there's a pretty clear favorite and not from here on out. I don't quite understand this line, and I think you're probably going to lock this one up. But I do think
I'm locking up the. Is this what it is? I'm jumping the gun here. Give me the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Listen, this is the best dog left to me. This is the best underdog left to me. That's why I'm picking this game. But I think this line is a little bit crazy given the circumstances.
Yeah. When I saw -1, I'm like, okay, perfect. The Cowboys are a team I'm lower on than most. I don't love locking up the Buccaneers, but when it's only 1 point, I'm feeling more okay about it. I hate doing it when it's like 4 points because then I'm like, I just want to watch my team and watch my team. I don't want to have to have any added pressure. But I just think that what it comes down to is what kind of Trayvon Diggs are we going to see? That's really what I think. That's this entire Dallas Cowboys team, in my opinion. what kind of Trayvon Diggs are we going to see? If he is an elite corner, this team looks completely different than if last year was a fluke and he's someone who has great ball skills but struggles. And to be honest, part of it too is I just trust, I trust Tom Brady against Dan Quinn. I'm always going to bet on Tom Brady against Dan Quinn. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I think I'm a little more pro Diggs than you are. I know the numbers are there to say he's bad, but at the same time, or not bad, just average. I do think that there is value to being a turnover machine. Even if he's not Darrelle Revis, I do think there is value to being a guy who just wins the football a lot, gets the football a lot. And, I do think that could swing his way, but at the same time, that's probably the pathway. I think that's the pathway that the Cowboys winning this game is that they win the turnover battle and Trayvon Diggs comes up with a couple big plays. And if you're telling me that the path to a team winning is getting turnovers, I'm probably not picking you to win the game.
Yeah, especially against Tom Brady. That's just going to be tough, right? Tampa Bay. I guess the one other factor is what Chris Godwin are we seeing? Maybe no Chris Godwin, right? We don't know what his health is, so that's definitely an area that Dallas could potentially take advantage of. Dallas also no longer has Amari Cooper, so some intrigue there as well. I think Dallas should do an okay job at moving the ball. They did an okay job last year at moving the ball, better than an okay job last year at moving the ball. So I think that might be kind of, again, the way that they might have to win is by winning in a shootout, right?
Yeah, and then, I think the other thing is that I don't think Michael Gallup's not 100% certain to play in this one. So this young Cowboys receiving core is going to get tested really early. I like CeeDee Lamb. I've been pro CeeDee Lamb since the draft. But when you're looking at if Gallup's not playing, it's Jalen Tolbert, it's Noah Brown, and Dennis Houston as his 2, 3, and 4 receivers. I don't think that's a huge recipe for success to win in a shootout. Because, look, the Buccaneers, you could talk about how this recruiting stuff works and how Brady, attracts talent. If Chris Godwin's out, it's Russell Gage, Julio Jones, and Scotty Miller. I like that a lot more than what the Cowboys have beyond Lamb.
Yeah, one person brings up, how's Tampa Bay's interior offensive line looking? Best of luck with that. I have to say, maybe I'm just a biased Buccaneers fan. I feel like this interior offensive line thing has become a much bigger storyline than it is. Like, for one thing, you have Shaq Mason, one of the best guards in football, in the interior offensive line. You have, and I'm not going to sit here and say that, a rookie who we, barely seen play and Robert Hainsley is going to come in and be great, but he was a 3rd-round pick. He wasn't some, undrafted free agent. You also do have Luke Gadecki, who was, I believe, a 3rd or 2nd-round pick, who I liked out of college, and he has good advantage. 2nd-round pick, yeah. So it's like, I think that's getting overblown a little bit. I don't think it'll hurt, especially don't think it'll hurt in the passing game. It'll probably hurt in the running game, but I think in the passing game, Brady gets rid of the ball quickly enough. I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there is a situation too where Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence can give this team some troubles and get after Brady a little bit. Especially, it is tough when you're looking at 2 rookies starting on the offensive line. I do think that's going to be a question.
Sure.
I think later in the season it's not going to be an issue, especially with Brady as your quarterback. I think is a huge advantage for rookie offensive linemen because the things he can do with the snap count and manipulating defenders. But on the other side, have you seen the numbers for this Cowboys team and this Cowboys offense without Tyron Smith?
No, I haven't seen it. What is it?
It's bad. It's basically it's startling how much worse this team gets when Tyron Smith isn't on the field. And you know what? I don't think it's a great situation to go up against Akeem Hicks, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, great blitzing linebacker in Devin White, even if he struggles in coverage at times. Shaq Barrett. You're going down this list. There's a lot of guys who can get after the quarterback on this team. If Tyron Smith's not going to be out there, how does this offensive line hold up without him?
Yeah, and we'll see. And again, part of my confidence is I'm lower on the Cowboys. Someone says you are a biased Bucs fan, Jackson. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Absolutely, take everything I say with a grain of salt about Tampa Bay. The worst team I am at evaluating is my own team. I definitely do not disagree there. But still, come on, week 1, I gotta lock up my team.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. It was a lock. There was 4 lock candidates for me this week, and that was definitely one of them. Mainly just because I saw the line. I figured it'd be Bucks by 3, 3.5. 1 is extreme, I think, especially at home. If Michael Gallup's not up there, I'm really concerned for the Cowboys because I don't see how the Zeke Elliott is going to be able to run against Vita Vea and this defense, which is consistently one of the top 3 run defenses in football because Vita Vea is out there. And if they can't consistently run the football and it's CeeDee Lamb or bust, I don't trust it happening. I don't trust it happening in week 1.
Yeah. Also, just quick note. It's in Dallas, not in Tampa Bay. But yeah, other than that, I agree with
Yes.
everything you said. All right. So now I'm going to give you a game. I am going to give you. So again, not a lot of great games left, but I think some intrigue in all of these games. I'm giving you the Giants at the Titans. Again, to me, this is the game where I could just see it. I could see the upset happening. I guess is what I'm saying. But I'm assuming you're going to pick Tennessee here.
Yeah, I am taking Tennessee. This was another one where I thought the line was pretty interesting. I don't know if there's just a lot of. I don't know if Vegas is pretty. It doesn't sound like they're very high on the Titans. I know they lose Harold Landry, but I think
Mm-hmm.
you've kind of been on this, and I kind of agree to an extent. I think he's fine, but I don't think he's this pass rushing like stud that everyone makes him out to be because he gets a lot of sacks. The pressure is just not the same as the sack numbers would indicate. And you know what? I think that Tennessee should be able to move the ball on the Giants. I don't see any situation where they aren't. I think that Derrick Henry being back is going to help. I think you look at these guys. Robert Woods, I think it's fine. Not a lot of promise for Treylon Burks, I guess, early on in preseason, but I still think they're going to be able to find ways to scheme guys open in this Arthur Smith style offense. I got the Titans here winning by a touchdown.
Yeah, seems likely. I'm interested in seeing Daniel Jones. I am. I think I'm the one person left who's still interested in seeing Daniel Jones. I don't think he's a horrible quarterback. I just don't think he's I don't think he's shown enough to probably get this year, but he's getting it anyway. I think it's fascinating with some of this stuff. I do want to see a lot of talented young players on this Giants team, right?
Yeah.
If you're an optimistic Giants fan, you can talk yourself into this team.
I think so. You really like this offensive tackle group they hired. Andrew Thomas had a really good second year after struggling in year 1. Evan Neal has a ton of problems, and he's, one of the most physically impressive offensive tackles in the NFL. You look at this receiving core, you got guys, you're hoping Kenny Golladay has a little bit of a bounce back season. Kadarius Toney, when he plays, is awesome. When it just doesn't happen very often. Let's hope he plays in week 1. Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy they're really high on as a rookie. Saquon Barkley, obviously, when he's healthy, and I think is this Saquon Barkley's best offensive line?
Probably, but that's not saying much.
Yeah. So it could be his best offensive line. So I think you look through this group, and on offense, I think there's a little bit of promise as you go across the board. Defense, there's a lot of pieces. There's good guys in this secondary. I just don't know if it's enough to be the team that, I expect a little bit of regression for Tennessee. I had them at 10-7 this year, just missing the playoffs by tiebreakers. But I don't think there's enough regression to say that they're losing to the Giants in week 1.
I agree. Yeah, I'm with you. I still have the Titans winning. I have the Titans covering, but again, there's not a lot of close games left, I would say. So, there's some fascinating stuff. I do think it's interesting to see. I guess one of the things I could see that's being an upset is A, Titans struggled week 1 last year as well, and B, no AJ Brown. Will it take time to figure out exactly how to deal with that?
Yeah, that's a big question. Robert Woods is going to have a lot of responsibility, I think, in his first game as a number 1 receiver. I think that's going to be a tough ask. And you know what? I think that one of these rookies at wide receiver is really going to have to step up for Tennessee this season. And we'll see if it happens in week 1. I'm not entirely convinced it'll happen right away, but they need one of these guys to be good pretty quickly if they're going to win that division again.
Yeah, should be fascinating. But you want us to move on?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. All right, let's go here. I think one team's a clear favorite for me. The line says so too. But once again, it's a division game. Once again, it's a team I think that the underdog has a distinct coaching advantage. Let's go Steelers at Bengals.
Oh, you're not a big Zach Taylor fan, huh?
Even if he's the 15th best quarterback or best coach in the league, he's a lot behind Mike Tomlin in my book.
Yeah, listen, if he was the 3rd best coach in the league, I would still put him behind Mike Tomlin. Definitely, big coaching advantage. You're absolutely right. And I do think this Steelers team, we talked about it. I think the Steelers team better than people realize. I don't think the Steelers team are great. I don't think the Steelers are a Super Bowl contender, but can they be effective? I think they can. The issue is they're playing a team that just, was 2 minutes away from winning a Super Bowl last year, and I have a hard time picking them over Cincinnati, so I am picking the Bengals.
Yeah, we're both pretty high on this Bengals team. I think they got a lot better. and they made the Super Bowl last year. So I do
Mhm.
think they got a lot better. I do think that they can take this division. Um, I'm a little lower on the Steelers than you are. I just don't trust this offensive line. Like
Sure.
so this Ben Roethlisberger conversation. So I don't. Ben Roethlisberger was not a good quarterback last year, but do I
Sure.
think he did things pretty well? Yes, I think that Ben
What were those
Roethlisberger.
things?
I mean, I thought he was pretty good in the fourth quarter of a lot of football games that I thought really, I thought he was poised in a lot of situations. And I think having a veteran quarterback with a bad offensive line is extremely beneficial. I
You
think a
got rid
bad
of the ball very
offensive,
quickly.
yeah, I think a bad offensive line with a young quarterback is not going to be a beneficial recipe for success. I think that's the one thing that's going to be different this season is that I think this offensive line is going to be exposed as one of the worst in the league this season compared to what it was last year because they don't have a guy who's ready to get the ball out quickly. Um, Now they could adjust. We'll see how Trubisky looks in week one, or if it's Kenny Pickett. We'll see how it looks. But I think Trubisky can find some success. I just don't know if it's going to be behind this offensive line early on.
Here's a question I want to throw at you. Uh, would you like the Steelers' chances better or worse if Kenny Pickett was playing?
I'd say it's a wash. Actually,
Okay, so
probably worse. No, actually, I'd say worse. I
interesting.
wasn't
I
high
was
on
I was
picking him.
impressed with Pickett.
Yeah, I heard he was good in the preseason. I still wasn't very high on him in the draft. I'm willing to
Mhm.
admit that I'm wrong if it works out for him, but we'll see. We'll see how it looks in the regular season.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't disagree. There's, well, I guess I'm not with you, but I don't disagree in the sense of like, I don't think it's a big deal either way. Uh, you know, I guess the one thing that's also worth mentioning is, the Eli Apple situation for Cincinnati. What will we see? I don't think it'll be enough for them to lose, even if he does struggle, but it'll be interesting to see, was last year a fluke? Is this just who he is in this game?
Yeah. And not to mention Cam Taylor Britt's on IR. That was their guy they drafted at corner too. So it's going to be interesting. I think there's going to be expectations for him to be successful in week one. Once again, I could see him having a regression year, but I do think eventually, once they get their guys healthy, there's going to be some nice pieces in this Bengals secondary to make up for it.
Over under longest reception by Jamar Chase at 25 yards. Taking the over or under?
Over
Okay, yeah. I think smart bet there. Let's move on.
with
I'm
Yak included.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I would lock that up. I would bet that.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going to give you the Ravens at the Jets here. So again, not a ton of great games left. Where are you going here?
Yeah, I'll take the Ravens, obviously. I feel pretty good about this one. I know you're a little bit higher on the Jets than I am. I do think that there's promising pieces on this Jets team, but I don't think a lot of their promising pieces are in the run defense game. I think the Ravens should be able to run all over them. This could be a 200-yard day on the ground for the Ravens. I think they win this one pretty handily.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Again, I think that in fact, I probably still picked them to cover the 7-point spread. But like I said, I'm higher on the Jets. It's kind of similar to like why you gave me the Jaguars in a sense of like if there's a chance that if Zach Wilson looks awesome, then all of a sudden we feel very differently about this Jets team. So like there is that X factor. It is week one. It's not necessarily what do we think you're going to do, but what is your upside? And Ravens had a lot of injuries last year. Who's going to bounce back, and how long is it going to take some guys to bounce back? Will it take Lamar Jackson a week or two to really get into things? I hope not. I hope he's great right away, but I could see it.
Yeah, I do think that there is a situation for that, but I just don't know if it's going to happen against this defense and how they're constructed. They might be able to slow down Baltimore in the passing game. I do like this. Secondary a little bit more, but I just don't know if the front line is going to be able to hold its own. And with this Ravens team, I think that's really important as far as defending the run. I think they got some guys that's pass rushers, but not as far as run defense. I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem.
And the main thing I think that really feels like it's going to be the biggest difference maker is, well, I think the Jets wide receiving core has improved. I still just don't know how much I love going up against Baltimore secondary. I mean, that's just any team has a mismatch against that secondary, but especially, a team that with kind of an okay receiving core.
Yeah. I just think I look at it like Marcus Peters should be able to get his hands on the ball in this game. He should be able to create a turnover. And if you're losing the turnover battle as the underdog, I have a harder time believing you're going to win this one. Yeah. Like the Jets could be better this season. I just don't think it starts in week one. I could see this being a little bit of a rout.
And not against the Ravens either. Like that's another thing. Like you're playing Baltimore. Like it's tough.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be I think it's a tough test for their first game of the season against this team. I think the Ravens are hungry too, based on the injury luck and missing the playoffs last season. I think they really bounce back in the big way and make a statement in week 1.
Yeah, okay, let's play a game. So you're Freaky Fridaying with a Jets fan. So you're a Jets fan now. First off,
Oh
my
boy.
condolences. Yeah, but secondly, week 1, your New York Jets lose 48-28, but Zach Wilson looks great. On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you?
I mean, at that point, you got to be like a 6, right? I mean, you're obviously
I was thinking like a 9.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if the best part of this team in week 1 is the offense because they're throwing the football,
Mm-hmm.
and they throw the football in this secondary, you're right. That's probably closer to like a 10.
Yeah.
If they're moving the ball in this secondary, I'd be shocked.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on. 4 games left. So you give me a game.
4 games left. Let's go with I'm not entirely convinced on this team. I think there are some questions. I want to see it in week 1. Tough road game, interdivision. Let's go Saints at Falcons.
Yep. Next on my board as well. Again, I feel good the Saints are going to win. Like, I have the Saints winning this game. I even briefly considered locking this one up as well. There are a lot of lock candidates, which, it's week 1, so we get too convinced in our preseason rankings, and then a lot of stuff goes wrong. But, I think the Saints are better than people realize. I think the Saints team is good. I guess that's why the line is closer. I think people maybe are underrating the Saints. I think the Falcons should be okay. They have stuff that they're good at. They're just an inconsistent team who's a year or 2 away. I think the Saints are good. I think the Saints defense is fantastic. Losing Gardner Johnson would be really bad for most teams. I think the Saints can afford to do it because they do have great depth at that position. Still wouldn't have done it, but I can see I think that they can withstand a move like that. And I think their offense is probably better than the Falcons' offense as well. So I think we have an advantage on both sides of the ball. I feel pretty good the Saints are going to win this.
So what did you think about Bart Scott picking the Saints to win the Super Bowl and Jameis to win MVP?
To be honest, I have not been keeping up too much with Bart Scott's predictions.
It was pretty good. I saw it on TV or I saw it after the fact on Twitter, actually, I think, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, listen, I do have to say, though, I think the Saints are very good. If Jameis Winston wins MVP, this is a Super Bowl winning team. Like, that's how good they are.
So I think this defense is going to be awesome again. Like you said, does it stink a little bit to lose? CJ Gardner-Johnson? But I think with Paulson Adebo, Marshawn Lattimore, I think they're going to be able to find a third corner to fit in that rotation. With Matthew, I think who can come down and cover in the slot. Marcus May, I think, is a good safety too. There's a lot of pieces there I like in the secondary. Not to mention Demario Davis is a fantastic coverage linebacker. You're looking at all these guys. That's 11 really good starters on that defense. I don't even know who I would consider an average starter on that defense. Maybe defensive tackle, but at the same time, I'm not overly worried about their defensive tackle depth. I think that's okay. The big thing, I think I still have questions about the offense. Like, I see a scenario where this offense just stinks this next season, right? Where it's like, okay, with running backs, it's kind of, it's a 50-50 chance as soon as they start to age. Is this the season where Alvin Kamara slows down a little bit? I'm not betting on it because I still like his game, but I could see a scenario where Kamara is a little bit worse this season. Michael Thomas, I feel like, is a wild card at this point. I really like Chris Olave, but as a rookie, you're asking a lot. If Thomas isn't, the number one guy right away, it's a lot asking Olave to be that guy in week 1 of his rookie year.
You're absolutely right. I think that this offensive supporting cast has a big high risk, high reward type feel to it with Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, and Chris Olave. It's like I could see all 3 of those guys working out. I could see none of them working out. So my guess would be some of them would work out. You also have, Trevor Penning, who's now banged up, and he had his ups and downs in the preseason. He had his ups and downs in college. He's got talent. I think he'll work out eventually, but how long will it take is kind of the question. And you're right. I mean, relying on a running back is always scary. So I absolutely think that's fair to say that there's some questions about this offense, but I still think either way, it'll be enough to beat this Atlanta team.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think overall, I do think the Saints win. I'd pick the Saints in this game too. There's things I want to see about this team before. I did have them actually making the playoffs, but you could sway me pretty quickly on this team being bad if they look bad in week 1. I think this is going to be the team I overreact to the most. If they look awesome in this
Oh
game,
yeah.
I got to say they're contenders because they have awesome defense. And if they look like they're going to struggle in week 1 against the Falcons, I'm going to say, oh, I overlooked this team and I think they're going to miss the playoffs now.
Well, no, it
So
was hilarious. It was hilarious last year when the Saints blew out the Packers and then got blown out by the Panthers. It's like 2 weeks in, I have no clue what this team is.
yeah. So let's go to the other side real quick because we haven't talked Falcons yet. They're the other team in this game.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, whatever. If you want,
Yeah, let's do a little bit. So
Okay.
good corners, really good corners.
Yeah.
This might be one of the better cornerback duos in football.
hmm
That's something you like. You have Grady Jarrett on that defense. What's the pathway to them winning this game?
They're good corners and Grady Jarrett.
What about the offense?
I think that their offense is you have to hold. I think that's kind of where I think it's an issue. Where I like Kyle Pitts a lot, of course, and I think that I like Drake London a lot. I think those are very good 1-2 combo situation. Don't love their depth, and against the Saints, you need depth to move the ball down the field. And I just don't know if I trust maybe Mariota running the ball a lot is the way to do it. I think the reality is those defensive players get some turnovers off Jameis Winston. I think that's their pathway to victory.
Yeah, I guess the one thing you could also say is Drake London going to be closer to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, or is he going to be closer to Jerry Jeudy in his first year? Which, I like Jerry Jeudy, but at the same time, how much of an impact can he have in his rookie season? Because I do think, I think Pitts is going to get a ton of targets, and rightfully so. He's a fantastic player, but I do think that they need another option out there. I like Brian Edwards a little bit. I like Cordarrelle Patterson in the backfield. I just think that they need one more guy to really have defenses thinking about it.
Sure. I like those guys as a fourth option, the great fourth options, but I don't like them as a third option. And against the Saints, especially, that comes in really into play. But yeah, let's move on. I'm going to give you your Denver Broncos taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Where are you going?
I am going to take the Broncos. This was another one of my lock candidates, but I thought the line was just a hair too high for me on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I've said my piece on the Broncos. I think this team's going to be really good. I had them winning the division, the competitive AFC West, even if it's not the best division, or even if it's not the best teams overall. I think it's a really competitive division. I think that they're going to win it right now. I think this offense is going to be able to move the ball. I think they're going to have success on the Seahawks defense. I don't really see a scenario where the Seahawks stop this Broncos offense. I just don't. The Seahawks defense, I think, might be one of the worst in the league. I'm not high on it whatsoever. The one thing for me is okay, can the Seahawks, use these receivers and kind of have some big splash plays and kind of flip this game in their favor? But I just don't see I don't see quick drives being their path to success, because I think that if they're having quick drives, that means their defense is on the field more and the Broncos are going to score more. So I got the Broncos winning.
Yeah, I think most people are going to have Denver winning this one. I guess, again, we're talking pathways to success. I guess for Seattle, it's what they're going to try to do every game: limit possessions, run the ball a lot, which that's how you can find upsets, right? If it's an 8-possession game, that favors the worst team. And then maybe it'll just take some time for Russell Wilson to gel. Listen, we'll sing Tom Brady praise every podcast because that's what we do here. But, how did he play week 1, when he first played for Tampa Bay? Not great. Playing the Saints, definitely a better defense than this Seahawks defense is. No doubt there. But still, these things do sometimes take time to develop, and that's maybe a way that an upset could happen. But I agree. Doesn't seem likely.
It could be. That's probably the way it happens, is that, there's just a little out of sync. But even then, this team has always defended the run pretty well, but without Bobby Wagner out there, I just don't see it being the same thing. I think Javonte Williams could still have a pretty good game. And I'd like this, this Broncos offensive line. It feels like a no weakness offensive line. It's not a fantastic group, but I just don't see any situation where they're really struggling against what the Seahawks team has on defense. Yeah, it is a limit possession approach. That's probably the best way to win the game. But then it's also okay, you're not using your best 2 players to try and win a football game. Is that the right way you want to do
Right.
things?
Yeah. Well, hey, their best 2 players, Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker. Although Kenneth Walker, I think, is banged up. So, but still, no, I totally agree. I think that what's the best case scenario for this Seahawks team? What if you're a Seahawks fan? What is the best? Is the best case scenario Russell Wilson looks great and destroys you? Is that what you're rooting for?
Probably. They can get mad. This team feels like a tank team to me. I just don't know what they, outside of having DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, what is what is something you would look at this team and say, I'm really excited to see this group?
They're got some good run defenders on their defense.
Yeah. I mean, Shelby Harris is fine, but like
Yeah,
I
Noah
look at
Fant,
it's a really young tackle group,
Charles
which
Cross.
like so I guess that's the path to happiness. I think for me is if like you look at Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, who are two guys drafted with pretty high esteem going into it. If they're
Mhm.
good against Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb, you're feeling really good about that tackle group going into the future. But
Yeah,
like,
I think that's it. You root for your young guys to look good.
yeah, but yeah, I don't see the Seahawks winning this game.
Yeah. Don't think you'll get too much pushback there. So 2 games left. You had the 49ers versus the Bears and the Colts versus the Texans. Kyle, give me one, which is also meaning that you're going to pick the last one.
Um, don't love either of these teams as underdogs. Listen, we've seen crazier things happen with this team. Let's go Colts at Texans.
Sorry, in mid drink of water at the worst time. Yeah, Colts Texans. Believe it or not, I have the Colts winning. I know, a bit of a
Yeah.
surprise. In fact, I even I wouldn't say I consider locking it up because I'm never going to lock up an 8-point favorite. But I would bet on the Colts to cover as well. I think the Colts are a team that I just think the Texans are Texans have been a few years away for a few years now. They're a team that's just they finally got past all kind of the chaos they're at. They're starting to get better. I do think they're starting to move in the right direction, but I think this Colts team is competitive now. I think they're good now. I just think they're underrated. And I think that this is maybe a good test for the Colts to see what they can do against a team that's, in a rebuilding year.
Yeah, I think so. This is another one where it feels like you're rooting for the young guys to be successful for the Texans. You want Damian
Mm-hmm.
Pierce to come out and have a big game against this Colts defensive line, which I think is really good.
Sure.
You want, Derek Stingley to be able to hang with Michael Pittman in his first game of the season. I'm not convinced
Mm-hmm.
that's going to happen in week 1. That's a really tough assignment. You're hoping Jalen Pitre makes an impact too in the secondary. I mean, you can look at this thing and talk
Even
yourself
Davis Mills.
Yeah, Davis Mills too. See what he's got. Maybe he's impressive again in week 1. So you're talking yourself into certain guys being successful, but I mean, unless you're able to create some turnovers on this Colts team, which is kind of the pathway to beating them with that Jaguars loss to end the season, I just don't see that stuff happening with Matt Ryan this season. I think that they're going to manage this game at the minimum, let their defense kind of boa constrict this Texans offense, which they should be able to do pretty easily. And then maybe, you get a big play from Michael Pittman. Maybe Alec Pierce as a rookie comes in and makes a big splash play. Jonathan Taylor should be able to do enough. I think the Colts should handle this pretty easily.
Yeah, I think it's a game where, again, in our, the way we do this, where we kind of try to get the games that are most interesting and most competitive right away. Sometimes you get kind of the interesting games that aren't the most competitive fall back, but there is some intrigue here. I think, again, it's just we're sizing up both of these teams. We're just seeing what we got. We know they're in 2 very different spots, but I'm interested in seeing where exactly they are.
Yeah, I want to see, this. If the Colts are going to be a team that, we're not the only ones who have been saying this team should win the division. We're not the only ones who've been saying they should win it pretty handedly. We are not the only team that's saying this is, one of the better defenses in football. We're not the only ones that are saying that there's things to like about this team overall. They should come out and dominate this game. And I think to put a lot of impress on the guys who have been saying that this team could be awesome, come out and dominate this game. That offensive line, who 2 years ago was awesome, wasn't so great last season, should be able to dominate this Texans defensive line. Go out and win this game by 20, I think.
Yeah, I think it should be fascinating. Final game, we have the Niners at the Bears. I am picking the 49ers, believe it or not.
No, that's me.
Oh, right, that's right. It is you. Who are you picking?
The Bears. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Niners. This feels pretty easy to me. I'm not very high on the Bears. I've been not high on the Bears for before it was trendy to be not high on the Bears. I've been not high on the Bears for what seems like 5 years now. Don't like where this team's going. Don't like the situation they're in. I do like the coach. I do think the coach can be good, but I think that this is a team that's kind of built for a teardown, and it's going to be a tough ask to have Justin Fields have a good year in this season with this roster.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the one way you could maybe talk yourself into an upset happenings. Is even though I had it last on my roster is on my picks as well, but if Justin Fields takes the next step and Trey Lance still needs more time to develop because he didn't play last year, that's the pathway to success, right? Fields takes a big step forward with a new coaching staff and all that. I don't like the talent around him at all. So that's the issue. I just don't like this Bears team. I think the Bears are really bad, and putting Justin Fields, who I wasn't a huge fan of out of college, but I mean, I almost feel like I can't take a victory lap even if he does suck because of how bad of a situation he's been in.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, I guess, overall with it. Like this Niners team, you're looking at this group and big shocker, Jason Verrett's out. Hate that he keeps getting hurt. Travarius Ward is questionable. Jimmy Ward's on IR. Like there's a lot of pieces missing from this secondary that we think it could be a pretty good secondary. It usually is. But that being said, like this isn't the team that should be able to tear up this hurt secondary, right? And you're looking at this team too. Even the guys they bring in, it's like N'Keal Harry, Taja Sharp, David Moore, all on injured reserve. You're looking at Darnell Mooney and Byron Pringle and David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Like those are the guys you're hoping on. And then I do think even despite the injuries in the secondary, this defensive line should be able to eat this offensive line for lunch. I just don't see a scenario where how many B teams are in the NFL? The Bears are able to move the ball in this one.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. What you're not too sold on Alex Leatherwood coming in and being great?
No, not high on all, not high at all in that situation.
I like it as a flyer though. Like I like the move.
Get him out of the situation there, see if it gets better. I'm not putting any faith behind it, but it could.
Sure. For a team like the Bears, it makes sense.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a tough situation for them. 49ers. This is a perfect week one game, I think, for the 49ers because there's not a lot of expectations in this game. You're expected to just come out. You're expected to go out and win this game, even if it's on the road at Chicago. You're going against a really bad secondary. I think they're going to put training wheels on Trey Lance early, but I think Trey Lance could have a good game in this one. I think he should be able to. I think he can have success.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, this happened last year with the 49ers as well, right? Where they were a team that, they played the Lions last year. And then that was a weird game where they dominated. And then the Lions couldn't stop hitting these onside kicks. But, I don't remember exactly what happened. There's a lot of chaos happened in the last couple of minutes. But yeah, I got to trust the 49ers to pull this one out. But I think, more than anything about the teams, we're interested in seeing how these quarterbacks play.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big story for both of these teams. Even if the expectation is in the Bears make the playoffs, that you want to see improvement out of Justin Fields, even if the situation sucks. And then the 49ers have a ton of expectations to be good. Maybe not win the division with the Rams there, but this is a team with expectations to make the playoffs again and continue to do well. And they had a quarterback who was able to at least go out there and win games. They now have a quarterback out there who they expect to be even better than that. That's why they let him go. Or he's the backup now. So big expectations for both these quarterbacks. We'll see how they handle it.
Yeah. Kyle, next time we will be talking, we will be recapping a week of football.
Yes. So looking forward to it. Thursday night, first game of the season. This should be good stuff.
Yeah, very excited. Kyle, let them know where you can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grondin. Make sure to follow the account page. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, of course. If you like audio only podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts, we have the audio only version available there. Going up to 2 times a week now. We're doing Wednesdays, so we won't be doing this Wednesday, but a week from Wednesday we will have our week 2 preview, and then every Sundays at midnight, or at least most Sundays at midnight, we'll be recapping it. So should be a lot of fun. Kyle, final thoughts before we go?
Looking forward to the season, man. We're finally there. Just a few days away. This should be a good one. I think that's just about it. We're a few days away. Let's do it.
Yeah, should be fun. Again, thank you to everybody for watching. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.